The Longbox Crusade presents
Action Film Face-Off.
This episode, it's 2004 versus 1978.
Two undead films enter.
One undead film leaves.
2 men enter, 1 man leaves. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves.
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Now, if you know what you're worth, now go out and get what you're worth. But you got to be willing to take the hit.
Welcome back, everyone, to Action Film Face-Off, or if you want to consider it Horror Film Face-Off in June, you can do that. You can do that, too. But this is the show where two random years are selected. My brother brings an action film from one of the random years. I bring an action film from the other random year. Then those two films do battle using a variety of criteria that's not in any kind of order. And a champion will be crowned by the end of the episode. I am Jared Albrecht, the Death Probe. My co-host is my brother Jason, the Weasel Skull. We are both military combat vets who take our action seriously, but not too seriously. So let's have some fun. Jason?
Yes, sir.
A couple of rewatches for me, man.
It was a rewatch for the 2004 version. This is the first time I've ever watched the 1978 version. So it's first watch for me on that one.
A little half blind fire for Jason tonight. Okay.
Yes, indeed. We're going to score each of today's films on a scale of 1 to 10 in 5 categories. Those categories are story, overall spectacle, best action scene, the hero, and the villain, still not in that order. And then there will be the deduction round, where up to 10 points can be subtracted from the film's total for whatever we determine is the low point of the movie.
Thank you, Jason. It's time to introduce our sniper because we are joined by a sniper. The sniper has just 1 point to give in each category, so the sniper can sway the scoring by a total of 5 points. Let's meet our sniper for this episode. You may know him as the Battle Wagon.
Battle Wagon.
But he's mostly known as the Battle Van.
Yes, or Battle Van, if you're running some circles, I guess. But welcome back. Is it welcome back? Have you done Action Film Face-Off before?
I have indeed done Action Film Face-Off before.
What movies did you do before?
Oh, I want to say we did Commando and something else, but it's been a while.
You did Raiders of the Lost Ark. I remember you were.
Raiders of the Lost Ark is,
Batman Returns.
And Batman Returns, yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's been a while.
I think we did Commando and something else at one point, too.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, Dave Collins.
Dave Collins. Regardless of what you may have heard on some previous episodes, I know there's some propaganda out there about Kathy Bright being the MVP. That's total falsehoods. The real MVP is in the house tonight for Action Film Face-Off. Just like to put that out there.
The beef continues. I love it. Well, since you've been on before, you've been asked a standard question before, so I like to give a simpler question for return guests. So tonight we're talking zombie movies. Dave, what's your favorite zombie movie?
Easy. Train to Busan.
Oh, that is a good one.
A Korean movie. You got to watch it with the subtitles. You can't watch the dubbed. Fantastic movie. By far one of the greatest zombie movies you'll ever watch. It is absolutely a masterpiece.
I'm not fighting you on that. That's a good movie. Those are good answers. Okay, now before our two films enter the videodome arena, which Jason tells me he cut slits in so we can use chainsaws on it now. So that's cool.
I did mine, though, like the cross, so you can go up and down and side to side.
Oh, that's thinking ahead. But before we do all that, we are thrilled to kick off this episode with special shout-outs to Crusaders Club members. These are the fine folks who have joined the Undead Army Crusade. They enjoy early access to special Longbox episodes, brains, preferred seating on certain recordings. You get behind the scenes recording access. We just recorded something last night that was just for Crusaders Club members. These are the undead folks that have joined our flesh-eating crusade and giving much appreciated support to our rapidly decaying show.
Alan W. Wright.
Angelica Wolf.
Ow! Auburn Elvis.
Bill Beer.
Bradley Dello.
Braxton Underwood.
Clinton Robeson.
Captain Entropy.
Clark Westfield.
This guy, Dave Collins, the Battle Wagon.
Woo!
Battle Wagon.
Eric Hodge.
Eric Porter.
Ezra Gallo.
Gary V.
Gene Hendricks.
Gerald Green.
Heinz K.
Jason Keene.
Dude looks like a lady. A Jason lady.
Jeff Poyler.
Jeremy L.
Jim Jarman. I hope you like Jim Jarman too.
Jim Mill.
Joe Thomas.
John Watson.
Josh Strickland.
Candace Ward.
Captivating Kathy Bright, the MVP.
That is so not true. Matt and Lizzie Passo.
Mark Ross.
Maxwell Traver.
Michael Minton.
Miranda W.
P.D. Devons.
Paul Hicks.
Rick from Jeff and Rick Present.
Rob Morgan.
Samantha Maney.
Sean Urbanski.
Spidey 67.
Spreadsheet.
Steve Cronin.
Tim Price.
Tony Pennington.
And Toronto Cop. If we missed you on our list, we apologize. Please keep in mind we record these episodes well in advance of release. So if your recent edition will be added to you soon, but still no worries. You can let us know that we missed you by sending your hate-filled email to contact@longboxcrusade.com, and Pat will get that straightened out for us. And if you're asking yourself, how do I become a Crusaders Club member? It's pretty simple. You go to patreon.com/longboxcrusade, and for as little as just $1 a month, you get all the access to the amazing world of the Crusaders Club. Come and check it out.
All right, let's put a bullet in the brain pan of this zombie boring business and get back to the film gladiators about to battle for your pleasure.
This episode, I was assigned the year of 2004, so I selected Dawn of the Dead. What year did the randomizer select for you, Jason?
Well, I got 1978, and I put into our Videodome arena Dawn of the Dead, Jared.
What?
Double dead. Got double the dead.
This is why you guys are getting Horror Film Face Off in June, because we do use a legit randomizer, and it did hit 78 and 04, and as
we
Jason
couldn't say no. We
Jason was like,
no.
I was like, I got Dawn. He's like, I got Dawn. So we're like, let's just do it. And Kathy did not help us make that decision at all. So we've got a fine matchup for this one, folks. And it's important to point out this isn't Jared versus Jason. We each had to select from our assigned year. I might like his Dawn of the Dead better than my Dawn of the Dead, or vice versa. This is all about us discussing some beloved action films and coming to a consensus on which one is this episode's champion. Let's do a quick around the room on where we saw it. I have both of these sitting on my Plex server, so that was easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Jason, how'd you watch these?
I watched Dawn of the Dead 2004 on Apple. I rented it from Apple. And the 1978 one I rented from Amazon. That was the only place that I could find it.
Okay, were they both about $4 per usual?
Yeah, about $4 a watch.
Okay, what about you, Battle fan?
I almost said wagon too. You brainwashed me. You brainwashed me. I actually doubled up Amazon. I have Amazon Prime, so I was able to watch 2004s for free, air quote, which was weird because I had to rent 1978s for $3.99.
Oh, okay. All right, let me get in here with the spoiler warning. Clearly, we're going to spoil these movies, talk all about them. So if you haven't watched it, you want to pause the podcast, now's the time to do it. I'm going to give you a quick musical break, and then we're getting into spoiler territory. All right, we're back from the break. Let me jump in with some quick info on 2004's Dawn of the Dead.
Hey, Vivian.
And look, I can go backwards.
Let me see. Hey, that's amazing. Hey.
Hey, you. Vivian, honey, are you okay?
Officials have declared a state of emergency. Everybody they kill gets up and kills. Residents are advised to find a safe place and stay there.
I've just been informed that we are going off the air and switching to the emergency broadcasting system.
Look up the road, there's a lot more of them. Why are they coming here?
Maybe they're coming for us.
Sooner or later, they're gonna get in here.
Our baby's slowly falling.
It's only a matter of time.
It's coming.
They'll find a way in.
Oh, God.
Cast and crew stars Ving Rhames and a bunch of other people whose names I couldn't remember when I wrote this. Is directed by Zack Snyder. Yep, that Zack Snyder. The synopsis goes a little something like this. Zombie apocalypse. Mall. Survival? I wrote that myself. All right, interesting trivia. Bullet number 1. When Ving Rhames heard of a remake of Dawn of the Dead was in production, he tracked down the producers and basically demanded to be in the film. And I'm glad he did, because I thought he was pretty good.
Would you tell Ving Rhames no?
No.
I would not either.
He's so much fun to watch, and he's so good in the part. Yeah, why not? Why would you say no? Speaking of Ving, you guys are going to like this one. Trivia bullet number 2. For the scene where Anna stitches up his wounds, the director hired a real nurse for close-ups. She misunderstood the director's direction to quote-unquote go deeper and inadvertently punctured Ving Rhames' skin and stitched the fake wound to his actual arm. He didn't say anything about it until they called cut, and the director thought, man, that blood stuff we're using looks really good, and it was his real blood.
Spoiler alert, it looks better than the blood in 1978.
Well, some people have tempura paint going through their system. Whatever.
Leave 1978 alone.
But that's 2 bullets where Ving Rhames was like, I definitely want to be in your movie. And they sewed the prosthetic to his arm, and he was cool with it until they called cut.
Now I'm going to have to go back and watch it and see if I can see that happen.
Yeah, I'd be like, that's real blood, apparently. All right, third and final trivia bullet. Director Zack Snyder personally chose most of the music used in the film. His choices include The Man Comes Around by Johnny Cash and Richard Cheese's cover, which I love, of Disturbed's Down with the Sickness. Snyder was the only person who thought these songs should be in the film, and he had to fight for it because all the producers were against it. And I included that bullet because I remember watching this movie for the first time in 2004 and thinking, these musical selections are outstanding. So I think he did a good job. And I probably will talk more about that in Spectacle. But hey, it's time for Jason to tell us a little bit about what he's got going on.
All righty. I will now give you good folks the rundown on 1978's Dawn of the Dead.
In 1968, George Romero brought us Night of the Living Dead. It became the classic horror film of its time.
Not that room! Not that room!
Now, George Romero brings us the most intensely shocking motion picture experience for all times.
It gets up and kills. The people it kills get up and kill. This situation must be controlled before it's too late. They are multiplying too rapidly.
Dawn of the Dead.
Meet me on the roof at 9 o'clock. Getting out.
I don't believe it.
We're gonna
What?
get out in the chopper. We've got to survive. Somebody's got to survive.
They kill for one reason. They kill for food. They eat their victims.
Imagine, if you will, that something has gone terribly wrong.
Shoot it, man.
Now, accept the fact that there's no escaping the horrible consequences. George Romero brings back the dead. Night of the Living Dead has ended. Dawn of the Dead is here.
We must not be lulled by the concept that these are our family members or our friends. They are not. They will not respond to such emotions.
Operator dead. Post abandoned. We may never get out of line. It's everywhere. What the hell is it?
Looks like a shopping center, one of those big indoor malls.
What are they doing? Why do they come here?
Some kind of instinct, memory.
what they used to do. This was an important place in their lives.
What is it?
We've got a war.
Afraid.
We have spawned our own savagery. Soon it will consume us all. It is a horrible, hauntingly accurate vision of the mindless excesses of a society gone mad.
They must be destroyed on sight.
When there is no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
We are down to the line, folks. We are down to the line.
Dawn of the Dead.
Cast and crew starred David Emge, Ken Foree, Scott Reiniger, and Galen Ross. It was directed by George Romero. Synopsis goes a little something like this. Zombie apocalypse, mall, survival in 1978. So it's not plagiarism, Jared. I added that in 1978 at the end.
I didn't even see it until just now. That made it all the better. Well,
I was waiting for this bit. You were so late on the script, man. I was chomping at the bit to do this.
I did. I filled it in this morning, and your spot wasn't filled in yet. And I was like, oh, he'll take. I have faith in you. Like, he'll take care of it. I had no idea you were waiting on that. That's excellent.
I was just going to cut and paste whatever you put.
And put in 1978.
Just adding 1978 at the end.
Awesome.
So, trivia. The outdoor scenes with the hunters and the National Guard was filmed using all volunteers. So those were all real National Guard folks, real hunters. They showed up with their own rifles. National Guard and the local emergency services all showed up with their own gear. They all volunteered to do it and got a reward of $1 each, a donut, and a Dawn of the Dead t-shirt.
So George Romero has not changed his filming style since Night of the Living Dead at all.
No.
It's an all-volunteer army with George.
It really is.
I'm going to tell you something. That scene is probably my favorite in the movie. It is amazing.
It's wonderful. So the Motion Picture Association threatened to give this film an X rating due to its graphic violence. Romero was able to convince them to let it go unrated, but there was a warning at the beginning of the film that children under 17 should not see the movie. And finally, they used the Monroeville Mall, which was an actual in-use mall. They used it for filming for 3 weeks during the holiday season. The cast and crew could use it when it was closed from around 10 p.m. to around 6 a.m. Said the mall actually opened at 10 a.m., but the music started playing right at 6, so they couldn't really use it then. There were also several bars in the vicinity, and some of the zombie extras would imbibe a little too much while they're filming throughout the night. But Romero liked it because it added to their stumbling effects, so their little drunk shuffle added a little bit to the zombie effect.
Makes so much sense. I did not know that little nugget. I wish I'd have known that going in.
There's one guy I remember on the escalator. He was definitely drunk.
He was definitely drunk.
I think Romero put him on the escalator. He's drunk. Let's get him on the escalator.
Put him on the escalator.
Had to be on purpose.
Well, now that we have the basics on today's contestants.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Test your might.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Fight.
It's a street fight,
All right. Let's mix it up zombie style. Woo! Before we do, I got to remind you guys of Match Game. We got 2 films, 5 categories. So Jason and I can match up to 10 possible times. I have not seen his scores. He has not seen mine. Place your bets on how many matches you think we're going to have. Dave, would you like to do a live guess?
Ooh, I would love to do a live guess. Feel pretty good about these movies. I'm going to say we're going to match 4 times.
4. Okay. Got you down. And speaking of scoring, let me set your barometer here on Action Film Face Off. If this is your first time listening, welcome. And here's how our scoring works. If we give it a 5, that means it's decent. 5 out of 10 isn't bad. It means like, oh, that's something I'd see on a pretty good made-for-TV movie. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is starting to get elite. And 4, 3, 2, 1, you've got some things to work on. With all that, let's get into round 1.
Fight.
Round 1 is the story. How engaging or original is your story? And when you put it like that, I don't know what we're going to do about 2004. But maybe we can talk about the execution of said story. But you know who gets to talk first is old Battle Van. What do you think, old Battle Van, on the story of Dawn of the Dead 2004? We're going to start with the newest one first.
That's how I watched them, so it's going to be perfect. Barring the fact that it was a remake, so we can't really give it points for originality. It was pretty well executed. Like, I mean, there was some good beats in there. There were some things that I was looking for that rubbed the old zombie itch, I guess, or scratched the zombie itch, as we would say. Overall, it was enjoyable. I guess I'll go ahead and say this too. There at the end, like, I did not realize that we were going to get more story in the credits. I found that interesting. I really like that. Like, at first I hated it, but I mean, and I still hate the way it played out, but I thought that was kind of an interesting concept. Like, it left me feeling one way, and the next thing I know, I'm feeling a completely different way. So I did enjoy it. I thought that was a good storytelling device.
It sure was, because it was done in just such rapid fire bits of clips. What good storytelling they did, right? That was cool. Yeah, did change your whole how your heart felt. Didn't it?
It changed the entire movie. I mean, it really changed the whole thing. Like, I saw it in two separate. At the beginning, when I watched it the first time, I didn't see that part. I had to go, and I clipped it off when the movie was over, and then I went back and I saw it, and I was like, oh my God, like 2 days later, that's a whole new movie all of a sudden. So yeah, I did think that was an interesting device. I enjoyed that.
It does set it apart a bit from its 78 counterpart. And we'll get to that in a minute. But Jason, your thoughts on the story of Dawn of the Dead 2004?
If I had to sum it up when compared to the 1978 original, I'd say faster.
Yes.
Right. It throws us into it pretty quick. You get a little bit of the boring, mundane world of the nurse at the beginning. She goes home. She has relations with her husband. They obviously have a very loving relationship. They have usual marital coordination of activities going on. And then all of a sudden, freaky kid shows up in the room, and the whole world goes to HE double hockey sticks in a handbasket. Even the effects of the zombies, like the zombies are fast in this one. And so, I think that's how you get that trope now. Do you prefer your zombies slow and lumbering or running and fast, right? So this iteration of the film decided to go the fast route. I appreciated that. Everything moved, everything popped. It was brisk. It had all the elements, I thought, of the 1978. On the surface, it looks like it'd be cool to be able to survive in a mall. I mean, you remember as a kid when you're going through the mall and you're like, man, if I could hide here, and then when the mall comes down, I would just be the king of this place, right? That's kind of what you're thinking when you're in there. But then that world becomes mighty small and trapped after a while. And so, yeah, I think that it was a good second iteration and just put on a little bit of a brisker pace. And side note, if you get the original DVD, they have an extra scene in there where they filmed a short story from the perspective of the gun owner who was across the street.
Oh, yeah. Andy, I think was his name.
Yeah, Andy, I think his name was. So that was cool too.
If I can interject in the beginning and the opening story, and not to give anything away, but they didn't, in this version, they didn't know what was happening. Like, everybody that you're in the other one, we'll talk about that in a minute, but they didn't have a clue. Now that you brought that up, I did kind of like how there was a lot of background stuff going on in the beginning and then you knew it was going to happen, but then it happened really, really fast, and it took off like a bolt. And then, it was, busting down the door, getting through the window, getting in the car, neighbor almost kills me. So you're right. It was much speedier than anything else I've ever seen like that in the beginning. It was good. That part was good.
Definitely. They got to the meat of it, if you will, much faster.
They got to the mall much faster.
They did. In fact, I think I made a note that I was like, I think it took 20 something minutes to get to the mall in the first one. And this one, they were there in maybe 5 or whatever.
I mean, they stopped for gas in the helicopter.
I know, right?
In the first one.
I'm not going to lie. At one point, well, we'll get to 78, but at one point in 78, I think I actually yelled at my TV screen, edit something, George. Just edit something. Because he was the editor on that film. I know. Anyway, let's get to 78. Let's go back to Battle Wagon Van there and see what he thought of the story of 78. We've already determined it's not as brisk.
It's definitely not as brisk. It's very plodding. It's very slow. It's very much of its time. I remember some movies from the 70s. I was a kid in the 70s, and I remember how things used to go. And, a lot of stereotypes that you don't get, like when the cops are going to raid that apartment. I still don't know how that really fits into the movie, but they say a lot of things and do a lot of things that you would never see in a movie today. And it just didn't make sense. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm like you. Like, why? There was a lot of extras. It's like he shot everything, and every day when he got through shooting, he was like, "This is gold. Like, this is gold." He looked at himself in the mirror and he goes, "George, you're a genius." Like, I mean, he took it all. Like, it's just everything. Like, it's, oh my God, this is amazing. But
did we get plenty of footage of racist cop guy? Okay, good. What?
I'm pretty easy to get along with, but even I was a little uncomfortable doing this thing. I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. That one guy made me uncomfortable. I was like, what's wrong with this guy? But so a major difference in the beginning of this one, everybody that we're intimately involved with knew what was happening. They were trapped in that news station. If I remember correctly, they said it had been going on for weeks. They had been covering it for weeks. So they knew what was happening. Versus the other movie, it just happened immediately. And they all had to kind of figure it out as it goes. So I was a little disappointed that they were less prepared than they were, because before they got in the helicopter, because they knew what was going on. The other people, I get it. You don't have a weapon, or you don't have gas in your car, or you don't have shoes. The one girl didn't have shoes on in the 2004. It was just like, I understood that, but I didn't understand how these guys seemed to be so lost when they were in the news business and they were covering this nonstop. That was kind of a bug. Sorry.
That's all right. I felt, and we got to get to Jason, but my immediate thought with what you said was, I feel like George was almost tied to Night of the Living Dead. Like, he wanted it tied so much, where 04 didn't have that problem. 04 was like, I'm not tied to any previous movie. I'm just going to go. But Jason, run with it. Be a running zombie.
Well, it's hard to be a running zombie in the 1978 version. It plods along. It plods along like a zombie.
Well, you're at the bar all night. You can't run.
But, I'm going to be quite a bit more forgiving of this, because I was looking at this. I think what George was trying to do was show, we start kind of at the breakdown of society, right? They're doing everything they can to keep the news on, to keep people informed. And even at the very beginning, they're bickering amongst themselves. Discipline is falling apart. And you see it start to collapse. And the racist cop, as uncomfortable as it was, it's a way of saying, like, this society is broken down. Law enforcement is no longer going to protect you. They are falling apart. And our two protagonists, who are part of that law enforcement effort, they know it. They're struggling with their decision. One cop just shoots himself, just like, I'm out, I'm done. And you just see it falling apart and people becoming desperate. And they get into the helicopter. They don't really have a plan. It's like, we're going to go up. That's what he tells the other cops. They're like, we're going to get in this boat. We're going to go up. And that's as far as they can get. They get the respite at the mall, and they kind of carve out this nice little niche for themselves. I thought it was a compelling story. Slow, yes. But I think what we're seeing here is seeing the progression of what this apocalypse actually looks like. And then at the very end, and this is where I think, like, if you're a fan of Walking Dead, this is where it picks up, is that at some point the zombies don't become the most interesting part of it. It's the world that the zombies created and the humans that are now living within it. And we see these humans are now starting to form gangs and going and taking from other groups of humans, which they try to do to our heroes in this story. So I thought from that perspective, it was fascinating. It was much more than just a zombie story, which the 2004 was. And that's fine. So it's kind of like, if you just want a rock'em sock'em zombie story, 2004 is for you. If you want to get into the mind of the world that George Romero was creating, I think 1978 is your place to land.
I think that's well said, and I think it's time to score these things. Let's double back to 2004. Jason score the story. Yeah, but zip. Whoop. If you play that backwards, they'll say, Jason, what did you score the story of Dawn of the Dead 2004?
Lean, mean, no caffeine, crisp. I liked it. Scored it a 7.
Match game number 1. I also scored it a 7. Now let's find out what your score is for the story on 78 version.
I think this is where we're going to part ways because I gave it an 8. I liked the history. I liked the setting up the universe. I know the pacing was slower, but for all the reasons I stated, 8 for me.
And surprise, surprise, I went the other way and I gave it a 6. That just leaves the battle wagon and his sniper bullet. Which one of these movies had a better story for you, Dave?
So before I answer, I think zombies in all the movies are basically the MacGuffin. You know, the most interesting part is the dynamics of the people. Like, that's pretty much all of them. That's where it really boils down to. And you get a decent amount of that in the new version. And you're right, you do get more of that in the old version. But for crispness and pace, more of a compelling intro, I'm gonna have to go with 2004.
Fair enough. That's the end of round 1.
Don't force me to fight, because you won't like my way of fighting.
So now it's time to go into round 2. We're going to talk about the hero or the heroes of the films. So how cool were they? And let's start it off with Dave. We'll throw it back to you. What did you think of 2004's Dawn of the Dead?
All right. So for me, I mean, there's like 4. You know, you got Anna, you got the sergeant, of course, you got Michael, and then I'm going to go out on a limb and say, wow, he starts out as a terrible person. CJ, the security guard, you know, he comes back, man. Like, he brings it back. He has a really good redemption arc. I hated that guy at the beginning. And I will say that's good storytelling, because I hated that guy for the first little bit. And I was like, this guy's okay. Like, I mean, he just needed to get a minute. So those are kind of my 4 heroes. I mean, I felt pretty good about them. I felt like they interacted well to each other. I felt like they played off of each other well. Anna was obviously the more sympathetic voice for everybody. I think Michael was the planner, and I kind of liked him because he would kind of get people to go along with his plan. He's like, hey, have you ever thought about this? And then he'd back up and like let them kind of run with it. Those are my 4 heroes, and I felt like they all did a good job with the roles that they were assigned.
Yeah, I agree. I think all 4 of them had really good chemistry together. Ving Rhames was, obviously my favorite going in, but I did love CJ. That redemption arc at the end. Boy, he redeemed himself in spades there in my book. But at any rate, it's not my turn to talk. It's Jared's turn. What did you think?
I think I could use this, if I was still teaching corporate leadership classes, I could use this movie. Those 4 characters, like Dave said, Michael is a really good influencer, and Anna has the compassion, and CJ's redemption arc, I can't say no. It's my favorite thing about the movie, aside from Chips. Chips is my favorite thing in the movie. But aside from him, I love CJ's redemption arc, and I love Ving Rhames' character as well. CJ is the one I want to look at because I like him the most. It's such a good case study in initial reaction leadership. Was he a complete jerk and you hated him at the beginning? He had to be locked up, right? But what was the problem? If you boil it down, he was scared and he didn't know what to do. He was a guy who was scared trying to act not scared. And wow, what a performance. What a performance by all these people. And there's between both of these movies, a lot of actors whose names I could not tell you. And man, I was impressed through and through. So I'm giving the ultimate hero, the one I'm going to score, is Chips. But we'll see how the people around Chips get elevated.
Yeah, I can't disagree. I think Chips is definitely MVP. He brought a sandwich and chips over across the street.
And to feed Andy, baby.
Would you watch an 80-minute movie, zombie movie that's strictly about chips? Because
if he was delivering sandwiches across the mall parking lot, yeah, I would. I think I would.
Yeah.
Like, how's he going to get there this time?
You put like a GoPro on him and just watch it from his point of view.
Watch him go. Like,
I didn't think about that. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Help people, and yeah, man, I love it. Chips. Let's make it happen.
I agree. Well, let's move over to 1978. Kick it back over to you, Dave. What did you think of the heroes from Dawn of the Dead, 1978?
It's got to be Peter, right? Like, it's got to be. I mean, it's an ensemble cast, but it's got to be Peter. Like, Peter makes the most sense.
He's the only one that's not a moron.
He is the only one that's not a complete idiot. Like, I mean, the young lady, she did a great job in that movie. And I felt like, can't remember her name, Francine?
I think it was Francine, yeah.
In the newsroom, she stood up kind of strong to everybody, and she was pretty forceful. But then when she got with her fella, it was almost like she took a back seat and she just kind of like drifted. And then after a while, she got fed up. She's like, "You're going to teach me how to fly this helicopter?" and I want to leave here. This is not where I want to stay. And like, she kind of led them through that. So I liked her too. There was some moments where she was absolutely useless, but Peter stayed strong the whole time. Like, he stayed consistent. He was a solid player. He had decent plans. Like, I mean, he thought some things through. The movie would have ended completely different if the pilot guy, I can't remember his name, I'm so sorry. If he had listened to him about how they handled the Raiders and just kind of let things go, and then they would have just, picked up the pieces, it would have probably ended different. So yeah, Peter's the guy in this one. I think he was a good leader. He had good plans. He never lost his cool. He was always like real smooth. I think he was the guy.
Jason, let me just save you some time, and I wholeheartedly agree with Dave. I don't know that I have anything to add. Peter was the only one who was not a moron. That's not fair if I'm being mean. He was the only one that was a decent tactician. And he knew enough to know when those humans showed up, he was like, lay low. We built the fake hallway. They're never going to find us.
Right.
Let them fight the zombies.
Yep.
We'll come out and pick off what's left. And I'm like, heck yeah. And the old pilot guy was like, oh, this is our mall.
Perfect plan. He had a perfect plan. Like the whole wall thing. I mean, they even saw him go up the ladder and still didn't realize there was a door there.
Figure out where he was.
They could have looked for them for days. And never found them.
That fake hallway thing was brilliant. That was
a great idea. I will admit that. So we'll roll that back to story. That was a great story element. I thought at first I was like, but as it played out, it was really smooth.
And then pilot guy, even in death, because he went through his motor skills, just gave it all away. Suck pilot guy.
Broke the wall. So you bring that up. So that was the only time that Peter was a little iffy. And I think they did it for story, but like, at the end he's like, I'm not going to go. Like, I'm gonna stay here. And he kind of stands in the room, and there's a real tense moment where she's in the helicopter and he's down in the room, and like, is he gonna stay, or is he done? But then he decides to come out and do so. I mean, he had that one moment of weakness, but other than that, man, he was solid throughout the movie. It was even his idea to go down into the mall.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, the one thing that really endeared me to him was when he makes that dinner for the couple. And then he goes and just spends the time, at the grave of his buddy.
I thought that was very nice too. Yeah, I thought that was really cool.
That was pretty awesome. So, all right, let's score them. Let's do it. All right, Jared, what are you giving the heroes from 2004's Dawn of the Dead?
We've talked about this on plenty of shows. When you have an ensemble like this, do they all lift each other up, or do they all kind of average out? And unfortunately here, this is more, both these films to me are more of an average out, because there's certain ones like Peter, and we'll get to him in a minute. And of course, here we are in 04, so it's clearly Chips. Do the people lift them up? Some yes, some no. In the end,
they literally lifted Chips.
They
up
did. They lowered Chips. Yeah. But I'm giving it a 6, just because I was like, I kind of like most of these people, and I could maybe talk me into a 7 for CJ, because I love that redemption arc. But there's so many other people that kind of bring it down. Like Steve was a turd. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so,
but Steve was supposed to be a turd.
Yeah, I did not like it. Anyways, let me just stop talking and say I'm giving the ensemble here a 6, but it's not a I'm mad 6. It's a solid 6.
I was a little kinder to it. I gave it a 7. Well, what did you think of the Dawn of the Dead 1978? Did you feel the same way? Are they about 6 level there as well?
Another 6. I liked Peter. He was more focused. Like in 04, we had, like Dave said, about 4 solid people, unless you count Chips. And then here in 78, Peter was really the only one that was solid. But a lot of the other people just even kind of drug him down. We got this by the
I liked Roger. You're Roger.
He was like, he just way too confident in himself. Anyways, I gave them both a 6, 66, and 6, and there's a 6 involved.
Okay, I gave this one a 7 as well, so apparently I liked him a little bit more than you. But Dave, what are your thoughts? Which of these films is getting your bullet? Is it 78 or 2004?
So if Chips was truly the hero, I mean, he is, but if we were grading on Chips, I would definitely go Chips, but I can't go away from Peter. Out of the group of both movies, because you had a little bit, with the ensemble cast of 04, you had all these different people, and one person was the heart, and one person was the tactician, one person was kind of the fireball, but Peter was all those things. So I'm going to have to go with Peter on this one.
All right. Well, that wraps it. I'm going to pass it back over to you, Jared.
That must mean it's time to talk about the villain.
You gotta ask yourself a question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Okay, we got some interesting stuff here because how menacing or entertaining is your villain? You know, and the villain here, we talked about it, is zombies and other people. So I'm interested to see how we're going to break this down. Jason, you get the mic first for Dawn of the Dead 2004.
Well, the villain's really the zombies, and maybe Mekhi Phifer, his character, with the zombie baby, which was just weird.
That was weird.
So love makes you do some crazy things, sir.
It does. It really does. And his wife was hot.
She was very attractive. I will say that the scene where they're in the bathroom talking, the two guys are talking, kind of foreshadowed that whole thing pretty hard.
It did.
Yeah, but love definitely makes you do some strange things. Sorry.
No, you're absolutely right. So, you know, I think really you're just looking at the zombies on this, basically. And the zombies are cool. The effects are cool. I don't know if you guys are running zombies or plodding zombies. I like the plodding zombies, I got to say. I think there's just something creepier about just not being able to run away because it's just they grind you down over time. It's an inexorable terror that just you can't escape. But I thought these zombies were pretty cool. I guess that's all I got to say about that.
I'm afraid of fast zombies. I'm just gonna
I am too. I much prefer plodding zombies.
I'm afraid of those, like those World War Z zombies.
Oh man, those are like berserker zombies.
So, what'd you think of the villainy in 2004, Dave?
Oh, it's my turn. Hey, hello everyone. I agree. There wasn't really I tried to think other than Steve, who was just kind of a bag. There was no outside influence of villainy. It was just the zombies. Like it was just the circumstances. So I didn't really feel like there was anything other than driving that, but I did like the effects. I thought they were good zombies. I thought they were just fast enough to not scare me and freak me out, and just plotty enough to pay homage to the 1978 zombies.
Well said. And I agree with you both. I mean, it's all zombies in this one, and well, that's what you go to this movie for. Let's shift gears to 1978, where there's a bit more than zombies, and back to Jason.
Yeah, like we talked about earlier, a bit more than zombies. We get to see the zombies as the catalyst that brings about this post-apocalyptic world that our heroes are learning to survive and thrive in. The zombies themselves, I mean, for 1978, I guess they look okay. Like I said, I much prefer the plotting zombies, but, you know, they were grayish, bluish, I guess. But to me, what was interesting was the end with, you know, Tom Savini and the bad guys show up. I think that added another element to it. So now we're getting to see that this world is made even more dangerous by the surviving humans. So there's no big bad villain that you got to beat here, except maybe the biker boss at the end of the movie. But I think it's a little more complex, and that you get to see the zombies as the catalyst at the beginning, and this biker gang that's what comes out of the other end of this apocalypse.
Absolutely. Dave, anything to add?
I agree 100%. I think 78, you do have the zombies, and I mean, they're a threat, but they're not, because they're the plotters and they're a weird color. They aren't as deadly as some of the zombies, like we talked about Train to Busan and World War Z and that kind of stuff. But they were there, and they were a constant, harassment. But I think the real issue was the other people, the biker gang, who, if you watch this movie, they just, no rhyme or reason for what they did. Like, there was just no rhyme or reason for the things they took. They were stealing fur coats. They were stealing gold chains. They took the money out of the bank. One guy was checking his blood pressure. Like, it's just so many things that just, they were like, you got to share with us. Like, there was plenty. Like, you didn't have to do all that. So it was a true villainous act to come in and cause all that chaos when you didn't have to. Like, you probably could have been nicer about it and they would have worked it out. So they were definitely the villainous group of the whole movie.
I believe I'll have more to say about that later. Something to look forward to in the deduction round. Let's go back and score these things. Jason, the The Zombies of Dawn of the... And Steve, who left his post at the door, by the way. He had one job was to let him back in at the door.
Right. Well, you knew he wasn't going to be there when they came up.
And he's at the back of the bus like, oh, what's up?
I hate... Yeah, where you guys been? You know, I hate to beat a dead horse, but you know who I would have put on the door? Chips.
Chips
Yeah.
Chips could
have kept that door open. That's right.
Anyways, Jason, what are you going to score the Zombies of Dawn of the Dead 2004?
I'm going to give them a 6. I mean, they were zombies. They were fast. Good makeup. 6.
And that is match game number 2. I also gave it a 6. Side question, how are you going to have just an actor who shows up, makes me smile and everything is Matt Frewer? Max Headroom himself shows up. For what, 8 minutes? Come on, get more mileage out of Matt Frewer. Good scene, though. Touching scene.
It was a good scene. Yep.
All right. That was appropriate of nothing. Let's shift gears and go to Dawn of the Dead 1978. Jason, better? Same? What do you think?
I'm giving it better because we're getting to see the progression. We get to see, like I said, zombies at the beginning, and then you got the bad guys at the end. So 7 for me.
I'm sticking on the 6, and there's probably deductions to come, and I'll get into it. But we've all kind of giggled a little bit at the color of the zombies. I think George wasn't ready because this is the sequel to Night of the Living Dead. I don't think he was ready to go from black and white to color just yet.
Yeah, actually, it's one of the trivia things I found out was that Tom Savini chose that color, and it was actually like a gray. And you're right. They said since the original was filmed in black and white, they didn't really have any context. So Savini thought, well, gray makes sense, kind of a grayish of a corpse of a dead body.
Right.
And he said what he didn't realize until after they filmed it was when you film it and then project it, it makes it look more blue.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was off color from his original concept. And he said that's one of the things he regrets. So I
will say that the other officer, I can't remember his name, I'm sorry, Peter's friend. Yeah, when he turned, he looked okay. Like he was much more gray. He wasn't as blue.
True.
Like he looked a lot better than some of the other cats.
While you get the mic, Dave, you got a sniper bullet to give. Which of these two films do you think had better villainy?
Man, this is a tough one. It really is because the villainy for 78 was just absolutely bonkers, right? Like that whole scene is just absolutely bonkers. But we've all admitted that the main villain for both of these is going to be the zombies, and I'm gonna have to go 2004 because their zombies were just much better, and they weren't blue, they weren't Smurfs. We were being attacked by killer Smurfs,
which in and of itself can be terrifying. But we've got your sniper bullet. You liked 04 a little bit better. Nothing wrong with that. And that's the end of round 3.
All right, I'm going to pick it up for round 4.
The disease. On the cure.
And round 4 is going to be spectacle. And by spectacle, we mean how visually engaging is the film overall. We're talking stunts and effects. We're talking cinematography, soundtrack, musical score, all that good stuff. Jared, what did you think of the overall spectacle of 2004's Dawn of the Dead?
I think it's good. I think it was solid. This is more of a spectacle movie. I think this is maybe the category that really differentiates these two films. And Jace, you kind of hit on it earlier. I think we were talking about story. This movie is much more of a spectacle piece, and I feel like 78's more of a slice of life, more so than if that makes sense. But let me focus on 04. I've already mentioned that the music was cool. The Johnny Cash tune for the opening credits. Richard Cheese is down with a sickness, which is just one of the most glorious things ever. And then it rolls credits with Disturbed's down with the sickness. Those I thought were great musical choices because it was one of those films when I watched it in 04, as soon as it was over, I was out there getting that music. Probably Napster because this was 04. I don't know if it was still around by then. It might have been a little late for that. But I was like, this is the movie that got me into Johnny Cash. Like I went out and bought a Johnny Cash CD because I was like, I really like that. I didn't know a ton about Johnny Cash until then. And I went out and I bought the Richard Cheese CD, which is freaking phenomenal. If anyone out there is unfamiliar, he takes these songs like Baby Got Back and he just makes lounge versions of them and they're awesomely hilarious. And I just think the music really helped here. And then when we talk about visual spectacle, yeah, the zombies looked good. They were scary. I think it's funny and well-timed that this came out in 2004 because this is about the last time you could use a shopping mall because they are so defunct now. I think they're literally filled with zombies at this point because there's not much going on in shopping malls anymore. I did a whole
Careful, you're getting close to one of my
okay, I'll
one of my overall spectacle titles.
All right. I did a nostalgia talk on mall culture and how it's basically gone and how important it used to be. And it's kind of funny because 78 is like the birth of mall culture. I'm probably saying too much. Jason might have this in his notes. And like 04 is the death. Anyways, other than that, the firearms stuff was cool. You know, Jason and I like the firearms stuff, being military guys. Thought that was neat. Great attention to detail on that, by the way, because they actually showed them count their rounds for different ones. Then they get to Andy's store. And this is one of the things that made me happy because the things that makes me salty with every zombie movie, and I could probably put it in a deduction round for both these films, it's just how incompetently stupid people are. They'll go to an ammunition store and just grab all the ammo. I'm like, those rounds aren't even for anything you own. And they specifically said these. And I was like, that's impressive. So good attention to detail. I need to shut up. It's a good spectacle film, good music, good cinematography, good effects, lots of good things to see.
Spectacle movie for sure. Dave, what are your thoughts?
All right, so I agree with the music. The music was perfect. There was absolutely nothing wrong with the music. The music fit it perfectly. So for me, for spectacle, you know, you get that opening like the whole thing with because it happens fast, but you get the little girl popping up in the doorway, the husband getting bit, she trying to save him, she's trying to call 911. She jumps outside. You know, she just woke up from bed. Her husband attacked her, and she looks around. The world is going crazy. Her neighbor's got a gun on her. She's driving. Somebody's trying to get her car. Bam. You know, here we go to the mall. And then they had to do the scene where they go through the tunnels to try to go get Andy and people out of the thing over there. And then you had the trucks that go through town that they fixed up, which I actually thought was a pretty good idea. Like, that was pretty clever. But one of my favorite scenes, probably one of the whole things, was when they're coming back from the gun store and the guy falls through the manhole and CJ grabs him.
Yes.
And when he grabs him, he hands him both of his pistols and he starts pulling him and he's shooting the zombies as they go. But of course he can't go fast enough and poor guy loses his life. But you know, those kind of things you don't get in every movie. I thought the spectacle was very good, very good. Like there was a lot of good things like that. Even the truck, the box truck, when they were kind of coming across the parking lot and they slammed it into the door and they're jumping up on top and trying to get, you know, up and everything, get into the mall. There's just a lot of real good action beats. And if we really want to talk about spectacle, the zombie baby birth was pretty spectacle, right? Like, I mean,
it was.
Like, I mean, she is flailing around. I don't know what he's thinking. And, you know, and then she stops everything and her stomach starts like moving around and then she comes back and that's spectacle, my friends.
I'm still terrified by it and I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Yeah, that's I'm in therapy after that one. Well, Jared, let's kick it back over to you and let's talk about spectacle from 1978.
You know, a different gear of spectacle. Like Dave just made it very clear that the real spectacle of 04 is its zippiness. And we've talked about how Dawn of the Dead with its plotting zombies is more of a plotting movie. And you get to see the early days of the Savini effects that are going to really take Hollywood by storm. Like we laughed about how it's like red tempera paint and I like how he had the comically large forehead zombie just so we knew he's going to get that thing chopped off by the helicopter blade, right? But it was fun to watch and we goof on it, but you know, it's one of those things where we have to pay respect. Like without this, we don't get 04. This is where it all comes from. So while its effects were less convincing, they still kind of fill you with a bizarre glee. I know you shouldn't be gleeful with the violence, but you know what I mean? You're just like, this is where it all came from. This is like, and some of it was legit. You know, I was like, oh, that scared me. That I jumped on that. So yes, this movie has a good amount of spectacle to it. And it's so much fun to compare the two because the one is fast, the other one's slow and so 70s, but that's part of its charm. I'll let Dave run it from there.
No, you're absolutely right. That is part of its charm. It's almost unfair to judge them because it's so different. I mean, the techniques are different. The technology available to them is different. I mean, I feel like he did a good job. It's just like, you know, you said without this, we don't get a lot of other things. Just like without Star Wars, look at the movies we wouldn't have. Like that was groundbreaking technology for what they did there. And this is the same thing. like you said, we like to goof on it. Like, it was funny that the only person that could climbed on a crate so he could get his head chopped off by some rotors. And as a side note, I was going, why they got the helicopter still running? Because the first time they didn't do that. So then I said, oh, now I know why they got it still running. But yeah, I mean, it had its charms. Like even the whole part where the guys are just rampaging through the mall and they got these big sledgehammers that are obviously made of rubber and they're just hitting everybody. And again, I hate to go back to the blood pressure guy, but I just found that absolutely hilarious. Like, I mean, you're in the middle of this whole thing. I'm going to check my blood pressure. And then I was like explaining to one of the kids, I was like, those were new. Like, that was a new thing. So he was like, oh my God. In his mind, he's like, I've never used one of these before. So,
it's just funny to think that somewhere like George Romero's notebook for that day was like, Mexican dude in sombrero plus blood pressure. Like, what?
I think he walked into that mall and it was there, and he was like, I'm going to get this thing in my movie somehow.
and then, of course, his arm gets left in it, and it says over and the pressure 0. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of things that were fun about it. There were a lot of things that were weird about it. It's very much of its time. I didn't hate it at all. I enjoyed it. I thought it had a lot of good action beats, and it was good. It was really good.
All right. Well, with those wise words, we're going to score them. Jared, let's go back to 2004 and see what you're going to give a score for Dawn of the Dead.
I have this one spectacle at a 7. I've almost talked myself into an 8, but I'll stick with what I've got. It's a very solid 7. I was like, the spectacle of this is a lot of fun. And I think if we had maybe 1 or 2 more scenes of chips, I might have bumped it up. But I'm going to land on the 7. It's a very happy 7. It's a fun 7.
All right, cool. Yeah, I was a little bit more enamored with it. I gave it an 8, but let's pull it on over to Dawn of the Dead 1978. What did you give that spectacle?
Kind of a theme I have going here, just a little bit lower. I gave it a 6, knowing full well that 04 gets a 7 by standing on the shoulders of 78. I mean, I'm just going to cards on my table. You guys have already been hearing my scores and whatnot. This is one of those rare instances where I think the remake is actually better than the original, or better is a strong word. I prefer it. Like, it's just it's a more enjoyable movie watching experience, probably because of the runtime.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that, and, this is action film face-off, right?
Yeah, like, good point.
We're not cinema film face-off. If we were, we probably would be loving on 1978 a little bit more. But, like, action-wise, yeah, I get your point.
So I'm at a 6.
The same reason I'm at a 7 for it. So I came down a little bit as well. And Dave,
I think we're all on one accord on this one. I'm going to have to go with 2004, strictly because it does have more spectacle. It's got a lot of stuff happening. That opening scene, again, I'm really enamored with how that kind of played out and the beats that it took. And I mean, we've seen it before, but I thought they did it a really, really good job. Like, you just didn't get that in the other movie. It was more of a slow build. I think Weasel Skull said earlier, it was kind of a slow build. Like, they're actually debating on the news about what they should do with these dead people or these people that are back to life. And you don't really get that blast into it. But yeah, I'm going to definitely go with 2004 for my sniper bullet.
All right. It's in the books. I'm going to pass it back to you.
That must mean it's time for round 5.
I was taking shrapnel and K-Sod while you were crapping in your hands and rubbing it on your face.
Round 5 is the best action scene. I'm interested to see how Jason breaks these down. It's like constant action. It's like shark in the water, constant stuff going on. But I see he's got his notebook out, and he's probably going to rattle it. Nope, StreamYard filtered it out. Oh, thank goodness. Jason, what do you have for the action scenes from 04's Dawn of the Dead? What were the highlights of that film for you for action scenes? And we'll start picking what we like.
Well, we could have gone with a lot of action scenes. I pared it down. I really started the main action when the generator goes out and they have to go into the basement. That one's called Starting the Generator or Fire Down Below. The second one I chose was the gun run, when they went across the street to try to rescue what's-her-name and get guns and save her from zombified Andy. And I called that one. So what do you think of the Second Amendment now?
Oh man, is stoking some flames.
Oh my God, that was good. It was my favorite part, by the way. I think I said that before. I like this part.
The third one, just for the creep factor, the zombie birth, which I called still a better looking baby than Jared, if I'm being honest.
Hurtful.
Going with the pain. And the fourth is the Great Escape, or, oh no, Steve died.
Oh, Steve, oh no.
Oh, Steve, no, don't
All
go.
right. Dave, I think you already said your favorite one was the gun run.
I did like, out of those, I did like the gun run. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was pretty clever they went through the sewer tunnels. But I was like, why are they going through the sewer? Like, they're not going to be able to get all the way in. But, they had to pop up kind of early and go. But my favorite part was when they were coming back and they were kind of running and gunning. And like you said, they did a really good job of picking out their weapons and all that stuff. But when that dude fell, and I was like, oh, he's toast. But then CJ, baby. He grabs him by the shoulders. He hands him those 245. I think they were 9mm. He hands us 9mm. He starts dragging him, and he's shooting them and holding them off. Like that, out of those, yeah, that was good. But Zombie Birth, close second.
Oh, I'm going to join you, by the way, on the gun run. And heck yes, I think I physically sat up taller in that moment when CJ did that. And I was like, this CJ guy, he's all right. That's the moment I was like, I am team CJ all the way. Because he tried so hard to save that guy.
I really do like a movie that gives you a character that you just absolutely hate in the beginning, but toward the end, you're like, oh my God, he's all right. And sometimes it's cliche when they have those redemption arcs, but when it's well done like this was, it's definitely worth watching.
This is why in the comic book world, I like Guy Gardner. He's that guy.
Yeah, he's that guy.
Everybody hates, but if the chips are down, you 100% want in your corner. You want him in your corner. So, Jason, of those action scenes, which one? Are you like the gun run like us, or are you going to mix it up a little bit?
Oh, let's make it a hat trick. I like the gun run too. I'm 100% with Dave on this. That moment when CJ is dragging old boy and he's just popping zombies with those two pistoles. That was a great moment, and I really liked it. And that whole scene was just tense, man. Just really, really tense.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm going to go with the gun run as well.
Such a good scene. Yeah. I think part of it is a really good action scene, which is what we're talking about here, but there's that character development is happening without words. It's just actions, That's what makes it so good. Side note, I don't think we even mentioned this, but James Gunn wrote this movie.
Yes, I noticed that. Yeah.
So, off the page when it rolled up in the credits at the beginning.
Yeah, so you have two titans of the comic book movie genre, really, maybe at the height of their craft here. There's a lot of good stuff going on.
It's really good. Yep.
Yeah, people like to pick on them, because certain hits and misses in the DC Universe film franchise, or even Marvel. Everybody's got their sides, but this is quality stuff from two guys that know what they're doing. Yep. Anyways, we need to talk about action scenes from 78 Dawn of the Dead, and I think there's fewer, but I wouldn't know because I don't see Jason's notebook. What's it say?
Well, there's actually a few more, and I think it's just because they plotted it out.
I forget that there's a lot that happens in the first 20 minutes, even though you haven't got to them all yet.
Right. There's the whole shootout on the I called it clearing the apartment, or they're not getting their security deposit back.
That might be your game winner for tonight.
Then the second one I chose was after they make their escape and they have to land to refuel. They end up getting attacked by zombies at the little airport area. So where he shoots the two kids. I called that one airport refuel, or thanks for shooting those two zombie kids. And I didn't know they were zombies.
That's where we learned that Pilot Guy has no muzzle discipline at all.
This guy is terrible. And then that's also where the lady is totally useless. He gets tackled in that one scene, and she's just standing there, and there's another one coming. I'm like, honey, hand him the hammer. Hand him the hammer if you're not going to do anything else. But man, woo.
So then the third one I chose is when they close the mall entrance, when they decide to actually make a push on the mall and they bring in the trucks. I called that one Breaker One. This is Rubber Duck. I'm about to put some zombies down.
Not bad. Not bad.
I like that one.
But I get it.
Number 4 was clearing the mall when they actually killed all the zombies that are inside the mall. And I called that one, either this is a zombie apocalypse or we're in Portland.
And you know what? Don't store your dead zombies next to the good meat.
Oh my God! I thought the same thing.
They had two freezers. Like one could be dead zombie freezer, and the other could be.
Bro, there is meat right there that you're gonna eat. Don't do that. I thought the same thing.
Me too. And then the last one was versus the other humans. I stole this. Well, I made a little riff off of yours, Jared. I said, when you see Savini, things are going to get meany.
Oh, that's your best one by far.
Okay.
Because I was involved. No, what was the first one? It cracked me up. Oh, you're not getting your safety.
You're not getting your safety deposit back. Or your security deposit back.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's pick a favorite. Dave, what was your favorite action scene from 78 as laid out by Jason?
I'm going to have to go with the truck one. Are running those zombies down. I can't remember. Rubber Ducky.
This is a rubber duck. I'm about to put some zombies down.
I'm BJ McKay, and this is my best friend, Dead Zombie, or whatever. So, that was good. I do have a question about that. Why was the guy in the helicopter doing that? Like, I couldn't figure that out. I was like, I thought you didn't have much gas in that thing. Like, you just
what service are you currently providing?
I know he was doing F all up there, man. He was
so at first I thought they were going to drive 2 trucks, and he was going to take them back over to the things. And they were going to drive 2 more trucks, but they didn't do that. So
that's what I thought too.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that one, especially seeing how that's when our partner just absolutely lost his business. Like that's when he really went off the deep end.
He did.
Yeah, he kind of snapped a little there.
But our hero had to get him. Was like, bro, you playing with my life. Like, are you good? Are you good? Because this is my life, not just your life. So our
I need
hero
you focused. This dude was like, yeah, I'm focused. And I just wanted to be the narrator. Like, he was not actually.
He was lying to you.
Jason, what was your favorite action scene?
I'm with Dave on this one too. I really enjoyed that scene with the trucks. It was very tense. You know, you just knew something bad was going to happen, and it did. But it was kind of cool because there were so many near misses. You're like, whew, okay, he got away with this one. Whew, he got away with that one. But then my boy, like, he just decided he was going to stand there in the middle of those 2 rigs and shoot it out instead of, getting in the rig. Bad choice. Bad choice, Raj.
For variety's sake, I'll pick the sort of final standoff in the mall when Savini's coming is going to be meany or whatever that was called.
When you see Savini,
about to get meany.
Like it felt good to watch Peter just own those fools, man. He's popping out of air ducts left and right. Like he basically single-handedly defeated that entire army.
Because we know Flyboy getting hit nothing. What? Like he could hit the broadside out of a barn.
Flyboy came closer to killing Peter than he did anybody else.
I do like the scene where he comes back and he holds the gun on him because it's pretty scary, isn't it?
His name was Steven.
Okay.
Steven.
Flyboy. He called him Flyboy. I call him Flyboy.
But I mean, I think at the end of the day, honestly, though, I don't know. I think I'm going to change my vote because you're right, Jason. There was a certain amount of just tension when we were running those trucks. That wasn't at the end. Like, it was a cheer moment. I was like, get him, Peter. Yeah, But the tension of the trucks was, I'm going to change my vote. We're all going trucks. All right. Let's double back and score them. And Dawn of the Dead, we all like the gun run. Jason, 1 to 10.
8. I thought it was really good, really tense. Lots of great action. Great character arc moment with CJ.
Man, I must have been grumpy when I filled this out. I have it at a 7, but I completely agree with you. And let's shift gears to 1978. And we like the running the trucks. Jason?
I scored that one an 8 as well. Different reasons, but I liked it. So 8 for me.
I dropped it to a 6. Because I can't. I think it's my personal problem, and I know that's what makes these movies interesting, is when people mess up and have incompetence. It just drives me bonkers. So I'm like, how can you be so incompetent? And I should really just learn to roll with it. But I gave it a 6.
Sir, I agree with you 100%. I want to stand up and scream at the TV like, what are you doing?
What are you putting zombies with your fresh meat?
What are you doing? Like, that is not on the food safety certification test, I promise you.
Peter, we were singing your praises, and now you're going to put the zombie in with the fresh meat?
Come on. Anyways, Dave, it's time to give out your last bullet. Which movie you thought had better action scenes overall?
Unfortunately, or fortunately, depends on what side you're on. I'm going to have to go 2004 strictly because of the CJ pulling that guy. I mean, that was a great scene. That was, and then Chip was in that too. So
yeah, he was.
He was running and gunning in the beginning of that at the head of the line. So that had everything we always wanted in an action scene. It was good. That was by far the best.
Great visual storytelling. Okay, that is the end of the action scene rounds, ladies and gentlemen.
Come here!
Well, it is time for me to pick this up, and let's talk about the round for the ridiculous. Jared, you mentioned that you had some points that you're going to take off here, so I'll just hand it over to you.
All right, I could take points off from both these movies for just people being dumb, you know. And I need to admit to our listening audience that I have taken more than one online zombie survival test, and I think I've actually taken 4 or 5. And without fail, every single time I have a 99% chance of surviving the zombie apocalypse, so I'm the guy you want to be with. And it really boils down to tactics. I don't know if you've ever taken one of these, like, quote-unquote serious zombie tests, but they'll go so far as to, like, show the layout of a building and say, which one is the best room for you to sleep in? All this stuff, and your man here knows about tactics. You know who doesn't know about tactics? Everybody in all these movies for some reason. I don't understand it. So let's clear the decks on that. I'm not going to take any points away, but it just bothers the heck out of me. Let me do my job here. Dawn of the Dead 2004, -1 for a pretty much out of nowhere, very graphic sex scene. It lasts just a few seconds during their fun in the mall time. And I'm just like, why? Like, I could be perfectly happy sitting down and watching this movie with my dad right up until this. Like, why is this in here? It added nothing for me. I was just like, oh, goodness gracious. You know, like I could watch this with Jordan, my older son, that right up until I don't want to watch that with I don't want to watch that with Jordan. So
Jordan doesn't want to watch it with you either.
I does not.
He wants to watch it. Just not
he wants to watch it and then rewind it and play it back.
Just I have no tolerance for like the useless sex scene. Like what? Anyway, that's my only -1 for that.
Why don't you go ahead and take off what you got to take off from 1978, and then I'll tack on to it if you pick something different.
Okay. The thing that just drives me bonkers about 78, I already told you how I can't stand incompetence, bad tactics, and there was plenty of that. But the thing I just couldn't get past is we talked about the big threat, not necessarily the zombies, but the human biker gang kind of paramilitary weird, you know, the humans, they showed up. I'm watching these humans roll around in their cars and their motorcycles. They have worse tactics than anyone else. And Dave already said they're running around stealing the dumbest stuff that has no value at all in this society anymore. And I'm thinking to myself, how the hell did these people survive? They have no discipline, no tactics. Their first tactic was ride around in the parking lot on their motorcycles and take swings with the mallets and stuff that Dave talked about. These people should not be alive. How they survived, I will never know. And it bugs me.
To make it even worse, they were living on the road. Like they were the survivor group. Like how did you survive like that?
You guys are terrible at
how
everything.
did you survive like that? Like,
exactly.
When the guy steals all the boots and like he grabs a whole handful of boots, and I'm like, you can't run from zombies in those. Like we can't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
With those boots.
In their defense, though, our heroes kind of did the same thing when they like took all the money and they were like, well, you never know. Yeah.
That's true. That's true. I mean, everybody was learning, but I just thought they bring this force that's to be reckoned with, and then they just are just absolute buffoons. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Anyway.
They were nothing like Negan from.
Yeah, exactly. Negan was a real threat with real discipline and order in his unit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
These guys nowhere near that.
These guys were not Negan, but they're not even Governor. Governor also had the same thing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
These guys were like bad news bears, like at best.
Yes.
I'm taking my point off for the flight jacket. I mean, if you're going to try to convince me that Steven is this veteran helicopter pilot, maybe get him a jacket that didn't look like he just pulled it off the rack at Sears. You know, that thing was wearing
shiny.
It was pretty pristine.
It was wearing him. It wasn't broke in at all. Like the collar was. I was like, this is the most ridiculous. He's like, I'm a pilot. I'm like, no, you're not.
Are you?
Did you notice that the jacket, when they started kind of settling in and living, and the jacket disappeared, and then when she had the thing at dead in her breakdown, she goes, "Look what we've become." Very next scene, he had that jacket back on, so it was like he went right back to his roots. I thought that was kind of clever, actually.
Well,
but
that was pretty cool.
I thought that was kind of clever because it was like, oh, this is who we were, and we've changed, and now, oh, here I am. I'm back with the flight jacket. You're right. Looked like it just came off the rack.
All right, that is the end of all our official scoring rounds. All right, don't worry if you haven't been keeping up with that math at home, folks. We do that for you here at Action Film Face Off. Taking a quick look at match game. Jason and I only matched twice on this one. Pretty low matches, but our scores were always pretty close, as per usual. And look at the sniper points. Dave gave 4 of his sniper bullets to 2004's Dawn of the Dead and 1 to 1978's Dawn of the Dead. And looking at the judges' scorecards, the winner of this episode of Action Film Face Off with a score of 70 to 66 is Dawn of the Dead, 2004.
Well, congratulations to Dawn of the Dead, 2004. Now let's head over to the randomizer and find out what the years are going to be for the next episode. My brother Jared will be pulling a film from...
Choose your destiny.
2018. And that will bring a film from...
Choose your destiny.
1970. What will those films be? Well, we'll tease them on social media for those of you who want to watch before listening, Dave. Or you can tune in next episode and find out. Till then, I'm Jason Weasel Skull Albrecht, and you can find me on social media at Jason Albrecht on Instagram and Threads.
And you can find me, Jared Albrecht, the Yard Sale Artist, a.k.a. Death Probe, at Yard Sale Artist. That's on X, Facebook, Instagram. It's all Yard Sale Artist. You can check out my artwares at www.theyardsaleartist.com. Dave, I know you stay off the radar for the most part. If people want to mail you a postcard.
we have a system, and it's worked a couple of times.
It has worked a couple of times.
So we're gonna ride this system until one day when I change my mind and I get back. So the system is simple, folks. It's fun. It's actually fun. You send Jared whatever you want to ask me. He screenshots it, texts it to me. I reply back to him. He screenshots it, posts it on the social media of your choice. It's a fun game, and it works. I mean, we have communicated all the way to Australia.
That's true.
So if you haven't tried it, I suggest you try it now.
So hit Dave up at Yard Sale Artist. Dave Collins, care of at Yard Sale.
CEO.
You guys get the idea. All right. Thanks for being here, Dave. Be sure to check out all the shows of the Longbox Crusade umbrella by subscribing to Longbox Crusade on all your finer podcatchers. Of course, we're also on YouTube, or you can go directly to www.longboxcrusade.com. If you'd like to send us a question or a comment, or perhaps congratulate us on the 70th episode, because this is episode 70. Woo! This show just keeps on rolling. Anyway, you can hit us up on social media at Longbox Crusade on X, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all that stuff. On X, we also have our own little feed there at AFFO Podcast if you want to get with us slightly more directly. But any way you get with us is fine with us. And if you want to get real direct, pick up the phone. I see how I mixed it up. Dial 707-532-5269. That's 707-532-LBOX. Pick up the phone. Absolutely. You can leave us a voicemail that we will play on the show. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate you listening. Until next time, keep your head down
and your knuckles up.
The intro and outro theme to this show and all of our Action Film Face-Off shows are done by musical genius Joe November. Check out his SoundCloud at JOSEFLIN99. You will not regret it.
Like, I mean, there was absolutely no la.
She's gonna blow him away.
You're supposed to let me finish it off.
And Jared, I want you to know that you are not a weirdo.